4 is seriously gonna count them. 1. All right. Are you there, Miss Lissa?
I'm here.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, we are just failing forward on this technology piece and trying to figure this out. So if you're just joining us, bear with us. We are trying to figure this live out. I have a amazing guest with me tonight, you guys. First question, what is your favorite jamming song? What's your favorite getting excited song? And you know what she said, you guys? It's my favorite song. Let's go. Thank you for joining, girl. I can see you down there on the comments. So it's on this Be Live with me. So make sure you're showing her some love. Miss Alyssa Cohen. Say hi to everybody.
Hi, how's it going?
She's super excited. Like, we've got some amazing topics to go through tonight. Therapy, and she is a diagnostic health coach. And basically what we're going to be talking about tonight is all things Facebook Live. So retreat. This is for the ladies tonight. So we're going to cover all things that women have questions about. And you know, there will be a piece at the end that may be applicable to men. And actually, now that I think about it, Alyssa, maybe it's important for men to learn this stuff so that they understand more about their spouses or partners, right?
Sure. Well, and hormonal imbalance can really affect men also, even with periods and things like that, but in other ways, testosterone and things like that. So it's important for all.
Yes, that's true. That's a true concept. So, Alyssa, I want to ask you so that you can let the people that are watching this know, why is it that you decided to go into the form of and decide to go this route?
Sure. The reason I went this route and took my practice this route is because I got off birth control when I got married. So that was probably, well, that was 6 years ago. And I didn't get my period back for 2.5 years. So in trying to figure out what was going on with my period and why I couldn't get it back, I went to the OBGYN, and she told me that if I wanted to get my period back, I should go back on birth control, and if I ever wanted to get pregnant, that I would have to use replacement hormones, and I should also get a brain MRI to make sure I didn't have any brain tumors. And I was like, yeah, I don't think that is my route. So, you know, I researched lots of other options. I saw a chiropractor for a while. I saw a naturopath, and I did get my period back in this, you know, natural holistic practitioner route, but it still was like really irregular. I missed cycles. When I got stressed, it got all wonky, and I'm like, this is not right. This is not okay. So through all the education that I had done and the coaching training that I was taking and things like that, I tested my own hormones and did some deeper testing on myself, and I found out that my hormones were completely depleted still. You know, 28, I was like essentially in menopause, and I had a bunch of gut infections like Giardia and H. pylori that were causing stress on my body. And so I realized that there, A, was deeper stresses that were causing my issues, and B, that I wanted to help women who struggled with similar problems and who wanted to balance their hormones in a natural way. So here I am.
Others, I love what you're doing, because it's the purest form of servant leadership. You know, having something that you've gone through and really wanting to impact them out there that may be dealing with the same things or know somebody who deal with the same things. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate you sharing your knowledge and your expertise and background with me and all the people that I love and I care about, because a lot of people ask me these questions, and I believe you're an expert in this field. So I'm excited watching to be able to learn from you. Thank you guys. Hello. Make sure if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments, and I will read it at the end for Alyssa or as we go through. And question that I want to go ahead and ask you is, what does hormonal balance mean? Like, what does that mean to the average person?
Sure. So this is, I talk about hormone balance a lot because it's a lot of what I like to deal with, and it's kind of central to a lot of issues, but a lot of people don't know what it means when I say that, I've found. So really, hormones they're chemical messengers in the body that allow the different glands and organs of the body to communicate with each other. So we need to be able to produce the right amounts of hormones at the right time of the month or in our cycle or whatever, so that all the moving parts stay in balance. And when we think about periods and things like that, a lot of times it means having the right ratio of estrogen to progesterone and making sure those things stay in balance. But there's a lot of other aspects to hormonal balance and a lot of other moving parts. And when our hormones are out of balance, it can affect a lot of different areas of the body. So it can cause thyroid issues with our immune system, issues with our fat metabolism, our detoxification. And so by working with hormone balance and working on kind of that central aspect, we can affect a lot of other different issues and symptoms and things like that.
What you're talking about, because how many people do we know that are dealing with metabolism issues or immune system malfunctioning, or thyroid? I know so many people that are stressed out on a constant basis, and a lot of this has to do with their cortisol levels, just like what you're talking about with their hormones, where there's an imbalance. There's either too much or too little. And so I think it's really important that you're bringing this topic to light, because everybody faces it at some level or another, whether you're man, woman, child, you're in your 80s. There's all different forms of hormonal imbalance. So I'm excited to get more into this topic with you. What are some of the symptoms that people have with imbalanced hormones? What do those look like?
Yeah, so there's lots of different symptoms that can be associated with this. And actually, I created a little handout today that I'll have to post in the comments below later about what it may look like for you. But so I'll just go through a list of symptoms here, but it can mean skin issues, so acne or blotchy skin, psoriasis, stuff like that, hair loss, hair growing in places that we don't want it to grow, weight gain, whether it's around your belly or more like thighs and hips, lack of energy, headaches, hormonal headaches, diminished libido, sleep disturbances, insomnia, night sweats, memory issues, dry hair, dry skin, too short or too long of cycles, periods, bloating, PMS, and also heavy bleeding during your period. That can be a big symptom also. A lot of people think of hormonal symptoms as being like menopause and things like that, but really hormonal balance is so important. Once we start menstruating, once we start getting our period, it's important to think about your hormonal balance then and going forward, because if we can be good to our bodies and balance our hormones in our 20s and 30s, we're going to be so much better off when we get to menopause and later in life. So
as a parent too, I think about this for my teenage daughter, and you know as well I do, the processed foods and the toxins and the chemicals and everything, the water, everything plays a part in imbalanced hormones. And so with a teenager going through different cycles, whether it's male or female, going through that puberty going, I know a lot of teenagers who deal with this, and catching that at a young age and being able to figure out, how do I balance my kids' hormones so that they have a long-term healthier body versus retroact all those years is so important. So these are great topics. Thank you for sharing all these symptoms. So hormones we're talking about when talking about hormones.
Right.
Explain that to me, because that's to me, so I know you'll be the expert in that.
Sure. So first we have estrogen, which is produced in our ovaries, and men have it too. Estrogen is important for everyone, but again, we want it to be in balance. But made in the ovaries, it helps build up the lining of the uterus and helps eggs mature essentially so that we can stimulate ovulation. There's progesterone, which it helps keep a pregnancy viable. It keeps our body temperature up. It helps that lining support a baby if there were to be an egg that was fertilized, and it helps that process. And we do see an increase in progesterone during pregnancy also. Then there's cortisol. So like Tashana was talking about, the cortisol is produced by the adrenals in response to stress. So it's an anti-inflammatory, and it increases our blood flow, and it helps us get away from stress. So it's not a bad thing. We think about cortisol as being a bad thing. We need some, but when it's in too much, when it's not in balance, it can increase our blood sugar and suppress our immune system and affect fat and protein metabolism. Then we talk about androgen. So these are we think of them as more the male sex hormones, but the women have them also. So DHEA and testosterone. DHEA is actually the precursor to estrogen and testosterone. So all these things are important, and testosterone in particular affects our sex drive and helps us build bone and muscles. Along with this hormone balance topic comes thyroid function, because although it's not a steroid hormone, it can often be thrown off when our adrenals aren't working well, or when we're having other sex hormone imbalances. And there's kind of a triad. So if the thyroid hormone is at the top, we have adrenals down here and our ovaries or testes down here. And so they really create a triangle and where balance is important within that triangle. And so if our thyroid is off, it's going to throw off our cortisol and adrenals and things like that. Or if our adrenals are off, it's going to throw off our thyroid. So, and thyroid can affect weight loss or gain. It's going to affect your metabolism, mood, digestion, and there's thyroid receptors on almost every tissue in the body. And so if that's off, you're going to feel it all the places, everywhere. And it's not just hormones that affect hormone balance or are related to hormone balance. There's other glands that can affect it. So the pituitary gland is important in our thyroid or our hormone balance. The hypothalamus, which is another part of our brain, the pancreas, the GI tract is important in creating hormone balance and sustaining hormone balance, and so is the liver. So all these different organs are important in keeping our hormones in balance.
Mm-hmm. Wow, this is just I'm listening as you're going through these different things, the progesterone, the androgens, the cortisol, and it's so relative to our bodies. And I'm just thinking about how many people I know that deal with, I know you said, there's two different people that I know, and it kind of fits into both. It's, the people who can gain weight, and then there's the people who gain too much. And then hormone imbalance and that thyroid functionality and how that plays a part in that's huge, right? If somebody was to come to you with that problem, my guess is you're going to have the answer to being able to help them maybe either gain that healthy weight or, you know, lose that unhealthy weight just by looking at their hormones. Just a simple switch, a 2 millimeter shift is what I call it. But that's so, I'm like sitting down here taking notes on all this amazing stuff. So you're awesome, girl. All right, next question would be, how does birth control play into this? I know you, in your story, you talked about this and your experience of issues having baby, you know, getting pregnant. And, you know, I've talked a lot about this with people who have had infertility issues, and I'm curious how this all plays together. Can you give us some insight on that?
Sure. Yeah. So birth control pills were a big part of my hormonal story, I guess. But like, you know, we're prescribed birth control pills. I started on them in college, probably, maybe, I don't know, maybe high school, I don't know. And I was put on them because I had heavy periods. And so, yeah, it probably helped with the heavy periods, but there's still that underlying cause of what was causing the heavy periods. And so then when I went off the birth control, things were still messed up, and even more so. But, you know, it doesn't fix the root cause, unfortunately, and it just covers it up. And there's other negative things that birth control can do to the body, especially when we're on it for prolonged periods, that can throw us further into imbalances. So, you know, one of the things is that because we're providing the body with hormones from the outside, or synthetic hormones, it can often shut down our body's own ability to produce its own hormones. So that's, you know, a problem in itself. But also it's because it can cause nutritional deficiencies, because the liver is having to work really hard to pull these synthetic hormones out of our body. So it can deplete our B vitamins, our vitamin C, selenium, magnesium, zinc, a bunch of minerals and things like that. So not only are you not fixing the root cause, you're further upsetting your hormonal balance, you're negatively affecting your liver, you're causing yourself nutritional deficiencies. You put yourself at risk for gut dysbiosis. It can affect your the good bacteria balance in your gut, because it can create estrogen dominance, so that estrogen level is higher than our progesterone level in, you know, that ratio that we talked about. And this can set us up for gut imbalances. It can increase the number of hormone binding globulins, is what they're called. So little proteins that attach onto our hormones, and it makes those hormones unable to reach the receptor that it needs to. And so those hormones are bound and our body can't use it. So even if we have enough hormones, the body can't have access to them. Yeah, and you know, birth control has been associated with cancers like breast cancer, cervical cancer, liver cancer, things like that. So there's more detrimental risks. But I feel like we just dig ourselves further into a hole when we go on birth control, think it's going to solve our hormonal problems or be the ticket to not getting pregnant and not taking responsibility for our the way we live our life, I guess.
Right. And I know so many, you know, it's funny when you think back to, I know when I was, I remember all these like differences in my body that I noticed, and, you know, getting off of it and how much better I felt, you know, and how my body, it's almost like my body went through a detox. And I love what you're saying, because it really does. It messes with your body's natural hormone balance. And I understand the need that some people want to have it for is to protect against unwanted pregnancies. I understand that. So I totally understand that side of it. I think for the person looking to improve their health and improve their hormones, this is a first stop shop, right? Like this, taking any form of birth control and getting it out of your system so that your body can really go through that detox and your hormones can start to balance you with their substance. I love that. Since it seems like the BCP maybe just covers up symptoms, you know, so the birth control, what is the root cause of hormonal imbalance? What are some things that you found that cause that kind of thing?
Yeah, so one of the major causes, and I know for me, and it still is stress. So whether it's environmental stress, so things, mental and emotional stress and things like that, or it can be internal stressors where it's gut dysbiosis and things like that. But that can really be a major contributor and something I still work on every day, keeping my stress under control. Environmental toxins can be another big one. So things that we're putting in our body, or maybe we don't even know that we're putting in our body from the environment, plastics and things like that, can really, they can mimic hormones, they can find hormone receptors, things like that, and really throw off the balance. Poor nutrition. So when we're eating a lot of processed foods, inflammatory foods like sugar and gluten and things like that, it can really, our body needs nutrients to go through its processes and be healthy. And so when we're not providing it with appropriate nutrients, because we're not eating nutrient-dense food and healthy food that grew from the earth and things like that, we're not providing with the nutrients it needs. If we have too high or too low of body fat, that can really contribute to hormonal imbalance, because fat can actually be a gland. It can produce hormones. It is responsible for producing some hormones. And so when we have too much or too little of that, it's going to throw off the balance. And also, too, we need fat to make our hormones. And so when we have too little body fat, we don't have that reservoir, I guess, to produce our hormones from. And then a low-fat diet. So again, we need fat to make our hormones. And so if we're not taking in healthy dietary fats like avocado and coconut oil and nuts and seeds and all that stuff, then we don't have adequate precursors to make our hormones from. So these are some of the major ones. Gut imbalance I kind of mentioned, but like if we have, even if you don't have digestive symptoms, you might have an imbalance in your healthy gut bacteria, and that, I consider that an internal stress. It's a stress in the body. We can't see it all the time, and that's sometimes where we need lab testing to help figure it out. But when there's an internal stress, our hormones can be thrown off from that. So
a low-fat diet. So you're saying I can eat as many avocado oil as I want, right? Because if you've ever been to my
heck yeah.
house, you know that I love to cut coconut oil. My hair's dry, coconut oil. I need toothpaste, coconut oil. It's a little ridiculous, but I love coconut oil. So good for you.
Heck yeah.
That's awesome. Everybody get on the avocado and coconut oil train. I love it. Yeah. There you go. We might be time to. I love it. So now that we know what hormonal imbalance is and what might cause it, how do we fix it? What do we do?
Yeah. So I'm going to give you some really specific action steps that you can take to help get your body back on track if you are experiencing some symptoms of hormonal balance. So the first thing to do is cleansing. So there's lots of different cleanses that you can do out there and things like that, where you're like eating no food or you're drinking juice or whatever. And really, to me, cleansing just means supporting the organs that help cleanse our bodies, like our liver and our digestive tract. And we can also eat certain foods or take certain supplements that are going to help support that cleansing activity also, because ultimately, like I said, our liver is really important to our hormonal balance, because it helps us get rid of the hormones that we're not using anymore. So we want to support that liver and digestive tract to help get rid of those hormones, or if you were on birth control, get rid of those synthetic hormones and move them out of the body. So yeah, supporting the liver is going to be essential. We want to make sure that you're pooping at least once a day. So when we're having regular bowel movements, we know that the digestive tract is healthy, and we're also helping those toxins move out of the body. So we want to make sure that you're having at least one bowel movement a day. And if you're not doing that, then you definitely want to think about supporting your liver, but also including foods with higher amounts of fiber. So the fiber is going to help us bind toxins and move toxins out of the body. So foods or things that can help with this would be magnesium is going to help with the poop department. Vitamin C can be useful. Taking a probiotic, and then chia seeds and flax seeds are really high in fiber, so they're going to help move things out also. And then, like I mentioned, you might need to check into your gut health. Maybe you don't know that there's an imbalance in your gut microbiome. I didn't know for myself. I didn't really have much for digestive symptoms, but I had H. pylori and Giardia and Candida, and I really couldn't create a healthy gut environment until I got rid of those infections. And so sometimes that requires testing, which I do for clients, and so that we can get rid of the pathogens that aren't supposed to be there, bring in the good bacteria that are supposed to be there, and then help heal the gut lining so that we remove that internal stress and also facilitate that detoxification process.
I love it. That's awesome. There's a documentary out there that's called Your Gut is the Second, or is actually your second brain, but in a lot of studies they think that it's your first brain. They say it's your first brain because there's so many, there's like over 100 million neurons in your gut health, or in your gut lining, that control what's going on upstairs. It affects your nervous system. So that's so important. I love that you offer that for people too, that they can come to you and you can test them to see, you know, how healthy is their gut? Is it affecting other things that are going on? So that's interesting. So what we eat? You know, this being talked about for, are there certain foods that will support that hormonal balance that you've been talking about, and make these types of things?
Yeah. So there's certain foods that we want to eat for sure, and then there's certain foods that we don't want to eat. So foods that we do want to eat are definitely the healthy fats, like I mentioned before, not having too low of a fat of diet. That's no good. So avocados, almonds, nuts and seeds, walnuts, flax seeds, olive oil, grass-fed butter is great, or ghee if you're sensitive to dairy. Fatty fish, so like wild-caught salmon is great. Coconut oil again, and hemp seeds are another great seed that is helpful in balancing our hormones. We want to make sure that all of our food is organic for sure, because if we're eating non-organic food, especially meat, toxins are held in our fat. And so if we're eating the fat of an animal that consumed all these pesticides and things like that, we're going to take those pesticides into our body. So meat is the most important thing to get organic, and then any fruits and vegetables that you can afford to get organic, do it, especially the dirty dozen vegetables, fruits and vegetables, get those organic. And then make sure that you're eating plenty of fresh vegetables. So they're going to provide a ton of fiber, and then if you're eating cruciferous vegetables, those are going to help support our liver health. So cruciferous vegetables are things like broccoli and cabbage, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, things like that. Bok choy, kale, I think is cruciferous also. So all those, eat all the colors of vegetables and you're going to get what you need essentially. And then we want to think about not eating certain foods. So we want to get rid of sugar primarily, or one of the top things, because it's so inflammatory and it causes inflammation, which is a stress to the body, and it can throw off our hormones. It also can cause the blood sugar to spike, and that's a stress, and it can cause our estrogen to be elevated, so no good. We want to get rid of processed foods because, like we talked before, first of all, we need good nutrients from our food, but also in the processed foods, there's all those preservatives and chemicals and things like that. So we want to get rid of those as much as we can. I often have people get rid of coffee, or at least keeping your coffee consumption to before noon, because if we're eating a really sugary breakfast and then we put coffee on top of it, it's like super duper blood sugar spiking and throwing off your hormones. So there are good coffee alternatives out there. One of the ones I like to recommend to people is Organo, because it has the mushroom coffee stuff, where it has some medicinal mushrooms that can actually, you can still have your coffee and drink it too. So that's always a good thing. And then there's certain food that can be inflammatory. So gluten, dairy, sugar, and alcohol are usually the main ones that I like people to get off of, at least for a while, and see how you feel. But
right. That's that I eat, and the things that my naturopath has plugged me into over the last 6 months or so. You know, she says the same things. You know, my gluten completely take, you know, the gluten, the corn, the soy, the dairy, taking all those to my body, and how my body has completely shifted in such a positive way. Like, my body feels different, and it just, you know, the old saying, it's like when you eat well, you feel better, you know. And so just making, and a lot of people are probably listening to this going, well, that's a lot of stuff to go. And I agree. It's a lot. Like, if you want to go all in, it's hard. It's not the easiest thing to do in the world, but is it absolutely. So what I'd like to add on to this is, if you're going to do this, do it baby steps, you know, because usually it takes that for people, you know. Just redirect something that you're not, or that you're doing that is not serving you, and replace it with something healthier for you that towards this optimal health. You know, I think that's, you know, when you tell people to cut out coffee, I can imagine people going, but you're not saying coffee. What you're saying is choose a healthier coffee, you know, an Organo, a bulletproof, something that's a little bit healthier for you. So I love that. So are there any other factors that might contribute to overall hormonal balance?
yeah, definitely. I kind of mentioned this before, but one of the major things that can contribute to hormonal imbalances are toxins in our environment that we call xenoestrogens. So these are estrogen mimicking chemicals that can throw off the balance of our hormones. So they might bind the hormones that we have in our body and make them so that we can't use them. It might block hormone receptors. Some can actually act like a hormone, and so, you know, cause a buildup of hormones essentially. So we want to reduce our exposure to these as much as possible. Places where we might find these are plastics. So BPA is going to be a big one. Phthalates, we find phthalates in a lot of cosmetics and fragrances, shampoos, things we put on our body. And then herbs and pesticides, herbicides and pesticides, sorry. So we want to make sure that you're eating organic. Avoid spraying chemicals in your yard even. You know, if you're using an herbicide or something to fertilize your grass, things like that, and then you go outside and breathe it in, or you get it on your feet or whatever, that's going to affect your hormones. Personal care products and feminine products, you know, if you're using feminine products that aren't organic, we're putting that very close to some very sensitive areas, and so that can be another place where we're getting chemicals that we didn't know that we were getting in our body. You want to make sure not to heat plastic in the microwave. So we want to avoid plastic altogether, but if you're putting plastic in the microwave, it's just like concentrating and leaching the plastics out of the plastic into your food. And then something that we can do to help detoxify these is we want to make sure that we're sweating regularly or exercising regularly, because it's going to help us get those chemicals out of our body as quickly as possible. And then stress, like I mentioned before, is going to be a huge factor. Mental and emotional, external stressors are going to be a huge factor in our hormone balance. And this is a work in progress for everybody, and it's a work in progress for me all the time. If we're not taking care of ourselves, then we're doing ourselves a disservice. So, we need to think about fixing our thinking, fixing the things that we're saying to ourselves, practicing relaxation, doing self-care activities on a daily basis, connecting with friends and family. And I know, Tashana, this is something that you're great at, is fixing the mindset stuff and things like that. So maybe you can mention more stuff around that concept.
Reducing stress, one of the biggest things that I say, and I say it on every live video, I say it anytime anybody asks me, what's the first thing you do to improve your mindset? You turn the music up and you start jamming. That's the first thing you do, because it doesn't matter where you're at in life. If you're in the crappiest, you know what your trigger something, and you just start dancing. Whether it's in your head or it's in your body, you're actually physically doing it, just getting yourself in a really good state. So this actually works really well for my teenager at home as well as myself. Right away in the morning, I've got my jam box. I turn this thing on, I turn some music on, and we just start jamming right away in the morning. Because neither of us, if we don't wake up and just something that we're excited about, both of us are going to get right back in bed and hit that snooze button over and over and over again. So I'm a morning person. I'm always really energized, so it's easy for me, but it's not easy for my teenager. First thing is just jumping excited, having some fun. I love what you said about the positive thinking and the positive affirmations. Those are so important. I encourage people to make a list of affirmations that they want to say about themselves, that right away in the morning, they're looking in the mirror, they're doing their mirror work, and I am strong. Even if some of these things, somewhere deep down, maybe you want to read more, or maybe you want to listen to audibles more, or maybe you want to be more positive. These are your affirmations that you're saying to yourself in the mirror, so that you get your brain thinking in that realm and you put yourself into that person that you're looking to become. I kind of alluded to it, but books and audibles, those are so important to positive mindset. So if you're, a lot of the stuff that we talked about is probably new to a lot of people. I think you could probably admit that, Alyssa. A lot of people don't understand this stuff. And how do you learn more about it? You plug into the people that do know. Proximity is power. So you reach out to people like Alyssa and ask questions, or, you watch documentaries that talk about these different things. A great one I'm watching right now that my friend Kimberly actually advised me was Forks Over. Things like that, plugging what's going on with your body, and then the mindset piece of it, plugging into a really good book or an audible. Instead of playing music at the gym, you're listening to a book. It makes it really easy to get through a couple books, and you're putting your head than you would have been to do some crazy a little more positive. So I can go off on a whole tangent on this exciting mindset piece of it. So you may have opened a door there. So I'm just gonna hit the pump brakes. We're gonna go back to it. So I got one more question for you. Are there any supplements that you found that can help people along their way of this entire discussion?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's one of the things that I like to do testing in terms of hormone balance, gut pathogens, things like that. If we don't know what's going on, if we don't see what the imbalance is, yes, if we don't know, it's hard to supplement. But I'll give you some little things that I like to use on a daily basis, and anyone can benefit from the most part. So to support the liver, certain supplements are great. So milk thistle and dandelion root, you can get these in teas. You can take them in a tincture, so like a little dropper bottle thinger. Those are great to support the liver, to help get rid of, detox our hormones. For gut health, you want to get on a good probiotic for sure. Magnesium can be useful for having regular bowel movements, and just for all processes in our body. Magnesium is important. And then an aloe vera product can also be really useful for helping to heal the gut lining. Collagen is another great one to help heal the gut lining. So those kinds of products can be great for gut health. Of course, if we do some testing, we find that there's things that shouldn't be in there. There's giardia and things like that. There's going to be specific herbal compounds that can help be antipathogenic and get rid of those sorts of creatures that shouldn't be there. So that's where testing is helpful. For hormonal balance, some general hormone balance stuff, vitamin C is really great. It's going to help us produce more progesterone, which is often low, especially when we're stressed. Fish oil or like fermented cod liver oil can be good. It's a precursor to our hormones. We need those good healthy fats, and so the fish oil is going to be good for that. And then things that can help support our hormones, so herbs that help support our hormones are Vitex, which is going to help increase progesterone, Tribulus, which can help increase testosterone if that's low, and it also helps support ovulation. And then maca, which is a root, it helps support our adrenals, so it helps that brain adrenal axis kind of thing, and it can help increase estrogen and also just kind of balance things out. But again, if we don't know what's going on, it's hard to just guess at what supplements would be useful, because if our estrogen is too high, is it our estrogen is high, or is it that our progesterone is low, or where do we need to go? And so I always like to say, don't guess tests, and because you don't know. And that's where some data can be useful. So,
right, and that's something that you can be useful for with your background and your knowledge and what you offer. You can offer people that ability to be able to be tested and find out really where they're at and how do we get them even just one step further. Because one step further is one step better than where they're at right now. It's just baby steps in the right direction. So that's awesome. Girl, you have filled my head with so much information, and I'm so grateful, because I know everybody who's watching this, and I know it's kind of a delay on Facebook and seeing a couple messages saying it's, sometimes it's freezing. So I apologize for that. You'll have to go back and watch the replay. We're here answering questions, got tons of information for you. But I am so grateful, and I appreciate you so much for jumping on and sharing all this information for people, because this is a topic that's not talked about enough. There's a lot of issues around it, but there's a lot of positives around it too. And I think you brought a little bit of both to the table, and your expertise is, like I said, I'm extremely grateful and appreciative of you and you taking the time to share it with me and my friends, and being able to share it with people that you know. And but if anybody has any questions for Alyssa after they've watched this, please feel free to leave it in the comments. I know you alluded to the fact that you have sort of like a handout that you're going to post, and so if anybody's interested in that, also drop in the comments and Alyssa can get that to you as well. But feel free to go over it. And Alyssa, now, is it just your main Facebook page that you have, or do you have I know you've got some stuff on Instagram. Why don't you tell people where they can find you if they have more questions?
Sure. Yeah. So I did create a little handout thing that I will post a link to in the comments below. So you can learn, are you experiencing some hormone balance? What do those symptoms look like for you? And then, my Facebook page, I do have a business page. So it's EC Functional Wellness, like Alyssa Cohen, Functional Wellness. And then my Instagram is also E.C. I think Functional Wellness. And my website is also EC Functional Wellness. So yeah, you can check me out on any of those spots. I am fairly active on Facebook and Instagram, so always good tips there.
You are killing it on live videos on Instagram. That's me. Every time I watch it, I'm like, ooh, she's doing it again. It's got so much information to share. I love watching it. So again, if anybody has any questions for such that information as far as like how to reach out to her, how to connect, just feel free to leave in the comments and I can connect to you. And she's also going to, again, thank you so much for jumping on here and sharing all this information. You are a rock star girl, and I love you a little bit more just because you love my favorite jamming song. Like, you just got some extra rock star. So thank you so much, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and have a fantastic night.
Thanks, Tashana. Great to talk to you.